studios of the Metro News Radio Network in Morgantown, this is West Virginia's premier sports talk show.
From Weirton to Welch, Martinsburg to Matewan, and all points in between, this is the Northside Automotive Statewide Sportsline.
Tonight's show is brought to you by Northside Automotive, Route 19 in Summersville. We'll beat the advertised price of any other dealer in the state, guaranteed. And now, sitting in for Tony Caridi, here's Brad Howe.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Welcome in across the state of West Virginia and beyond. Northside Automotive Statewide Sportsline for Monday, November 23rd, 2015. Brad Howe along with you, and I'm joined in studio this evening by Randy Goose Jerko. Goose, good evening.
You too, man. What's up?
Everything good?
Oh, yeah.
All right, good. Another busy show for you, as we usually have on Monday evenings. Here's what we have. Coming up in just a bit, we'll hear from Tony, as the Mountaineer basketball team is set to take on Bethune-Cookman at the Coliseum coming up in a little less than an hour. West Virginia rolled over Stetson on Friday to move to 3-0 on the season. Tony will give us a preview of that game here shortly. We'll also talk some football. West Virginia picked up its third win in a row over the weekend, beating Kansas. Running game continued to look good. The Mountaineers manhandled a Texas team, a Kansas team that might have been, I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but that was one of the worst teams I've seen. Yeah, that wasn't a good team. West Virginia did what it had to do, got the win. Next up, Iowa State, who blew a 7-point, they blew a touchdown lead with 90 seconds to play in a loss to K-State over the weekend and responded by firing head coach Paul Rhodes yesterday. We'll get into all of that a little bit later. And, Goose, if there's time, I will run down that last minute and a half for you. It's inexplicable.
You told me you were going to do that because you said we were talking about the games, about the Big 12 this week, and I admitted that I didn't realize Iowa State lost that game until 3 hours after that game ended.
Should not have lost
it. I tuned it out when they were up with like a minute left. And I was just like, okay, whatever. And I didn't realize until it was like 5 o'clock that they lost. Terrible
loss. So if we have time, I'll run that down for you. Also, as usual, we'll have our weekly visit from Hall of Fame coach Don Nealon. We'll get his take from the game on Saturday and a look ahead at West Virginia's final two games. And the high school football playoffs continued over the weekend. We're now ready for the semifinal rounds coming up this weekend, and Garrett is here in studio standing by, and he'll give us a recap of the weekend's games and a preview of the semifinals in each class. If you'd like to weigh in this evening, the best way to do so is to send us a tweet at BradHowe07, at BradHowe07, or you can tweet Goose at Goose Jerko. That's at Goose, Gyorko. And before we get to Garrett here in just a minute, quick look at a couple of headlines. West Virginia's women's soccer team won its second and third round NCAA tournament matches since the last time we spoke. WVU moves on to the Elite Eight for only the second time in program history and will take on number one seed Penn State Friday night in State College. West Virginia beat Northwestern on Friday and Loyola Marymount yesterday to advance. The University of Charleston lost on Saturday to IUP in the NCAA Division II playoffs, but the Mountain East Conference is still alive. League champion Shepherd will play IUP coming up on Saturday at noon, and you can watch that game on the Metro News channel at wvmetronews.com. All right, let's talk some high school football. For that, we welcome in Garrett Cullen. G, good evening.
What's going on, man?
All good in your world?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Off and rolling. We had a busy weekend. Obviously, the 7 games on Friday night, and then you just rolled right through with 5 more games on Saturday, and we were still posting content at the website, wvmetronews.com yesterday, and now we're looking ahead to the semifinals coming up this week. And we had a couple of surprises coming out of that quarterfinal round, and specifically with just margins of victory. If you want to go Class AAA and Point Pleasant doing what the Big Blacks did to Huntington, I don't think anyone saw that coming. 49-0, and that thing was over in a hurry. 4 fumbles early from Huntington in the first quarter. Point Pleasant capitalized on those and really just took control of the game. I think a lot of people they figured Point had a nice shot to win that game. However, just to win it 49-0 in that dominant fashion was the surprise there. Yeah. And you look at Cody Mitchell on the night again. We're talking about him, 267 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns in the game. He's now has 50 total touchdowns on the season, 13.9 yards per carry, 2,207 rushing yards, 3,067 all-purpose. He's averaging around 13 carries per game. Just 13 carries per game to put up those numbers. So
just killing it.
Just killing it, and he's clearly got himself among the top 2 or 3 for the Kennedy Award, Metro News Player of the Year Award as well. Another win that was just almost as impressive and just about as impressive, similar type game, 41-0 Wheeling Park beats South Charleston. South Charleston with now those 4 losses on the year as they end their season at 8-4. But that was a team that was finally healthy and had been rolling at the end of the year. Had a nice dominant win over GW, beat Jefferson on the road handedly, and just had nothing offensively against Wheeling Park. And the Patriots were led by Savion Johnson, 131 yards, 2 touchdowns. Cross Wilkinson, 12 of 12 passing, 235 yards and 4 touchdowns. A lot of buzz around him. He's a sophomore, so he's going to just keep getting better throughout his career. Elijah Bell, 6 catches, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns, as he's had a nice season. So that sets up really just a mammoth of a semifinal in Point Pleasant and Wheeling Park. From Point Pleasant, 2 teams that'll hit you in the face, hit you in the mouth, and run right over you. They're going to be seeing that coming up on that's your Friday night game in Class AAA.
So when you're down to this round, I mean they're all good. You're right down to it at this point, but that's one that you really have highlighted as a big one this weekend. Yeah,
that'll be fun this weekend to see who comes out of that and gets into the title game. And the other AAA semifinal is pretty good as well, and it's Capital against Cabell Midland. Cabell Midland won the regular season game between those two teams 21-14. That was the game that you really you knew that the Knights were going to be a factor, one of the top 2 or 3 teams, and ultimately at this point the top team in Class AAA, and Point Pleasant still unbeaten there, right behind them with the number 2 seed throughout the playoffs. But Cabell Midland last week, you go Saturday night for them. They had to beat Brook. It was 30-7, but it was only 9-7 after 3 quarters. So they had to pull away in that 4th quarter. Rainy conditions, fumbles were involved, and give Brook credit for keeping that one a game. But Cabell Midland pulls away like they've done throughout much of the season, just pulling away late. They've got so much depth. They're such a physical team. They really just wear you down. They were able to do that against Brook on Saturday night. The other AAA game was a Friday night game as Capital beat Martinsburg 35-30. This was a 24-14 Martinsburg lead in the 3rd quarter. Before Capital came back, completed the comeback, they were led by WVU commit Tyree Pratt, who rushed for 208 yards, threw for another 184 yards with the win. Good to see more from him. He'd been kind of quiet over the last few weeks or so, been battling an injury, and Silas Nazario had an injury in that game, their talented running back, and so you kind of wondered where that was going to come from, and Pratt put it all on his shoulders and had some help. Crunchy Bays had a nice game for them as well, and they came through with that win to get into the semifinals. So Cabell Midland is a rematch from a regular season game, your other AAA semifinal.
Okay, AA?
AA, you're looking to a couple of rematches as well. Number 4 Fairmont Senior at number 1 Bridgeport. That's on Friday night, as well as Mingo Central on the road at Tulsa. You've got Bridgeport back on Saturday afternoon, beating Robert C. Byrd 41-13. That was a 20-13 game at the half, and the Indians just took control in the 3rd and 4th quarters. Fairmont Senior beat Kaiser 58-42. How about this effort from Polar Bears quarterback Don Smith? 28 of 39 through the air, 426 yards, 4 touchdowns. So he eclipses a 3,000-yard passing mark on the season. That game, a key moment, came at the very end of the first half, about a minute to go. Bryson Gilbert, a 67-yard interception return for a touchdown. That closed the deficit to 9 points to just 3 at the break. Kaiser led 27-24 at the break, but Fairmont grabbed all the momentum. They took it into the second half and gained control of that game and get into that semifinal matchup against Bridgeport. Regular season meeting between those two teams, 35-0. Bridgeport came out on top in that game, but a key stretch there and is that Fairmont Senior had 3 turnovers on each of their first 3 possessions in the red zone. Obviously, you can't do that against Bridgeport. If you're going to beat the Indians, you've got to have a perfect game. They had opportunities to score early, and if they were able to do that, maybe that's a little different vibe going into the break. But they've got to have a perfect game this time around and hope that Bridgeport coughs it up as well in order to get that potential upset. But that's a repeat. And then the other one, Mingo Central Tulsa, great break game between those two teams first time around, all the way back in week 2, 44-41 win for Tulsa. You look to the Rebels and their running back, Luke Presley's had a tremendous season, 233 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns in the win over Herbert Hoover. Stevie Hammond, the Miners quarterback, as they beat Bluefield 35-22. Hammond has 2,800 total yards, 46 touchdowns on the year, and it was a 44-41 win again for Tulsa the first time around. That's your AA semis.
Now, Class A, looking down here, at least on paper, the story seems to be seeding-wise, you still have 11 seed St. Mary's still alive as we head down to the Final Four.
And that was a low seed for St. Mary's. They've been in the top 5, top 7 of our power rankings all season long. You just had so many teams that just had one loss on the year that kind of bumped them down, and they knocked off a good Buffalo team in the first round, and then last week just dominated South Harrison 37-0. So it's a St. Mary's team that made it into the final last year, lost to its rival in Williamstown, but able to get back into those semifinals, and they'll be on the road at East Hardy. How about a win that the Cougars had last week and knocking off Wheeling Central 16-14 in the final minute of the game? They're trailing 14-13. They drive down the field, kick a field goal to win the game by 2, 16-14. So a little bit of dramatics at home there for East Hardy, and they've got a heck of a quarterback in Corey McDonald, who has over 2,500 yards passing, 31 touchdowns, over 1,100 yards rushing, 17 more scores on the ground, and that's going to be an intriguing game in East Hardy and St. Mary's. Moorfield Magnolia, a battle of powerhouses in Class Single A. Traditional powers. Magnolia holds on to beat Williamstown 14-13. Chase Street, a big game for the Blue Eagles, 174 yards on 22 carries in that quarterfinal win. And then Moorfield beat Tug Valley 55-26. The story for them continues to be Will Schoonover, 212 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. Their quarterback Shane Myers had a nice game with 4 scores as well. But Schoonover's numbers, 42 touchdowns on the year. Rushing, he has 1 more passing as well. 2,375 rushing yards in 12 games. So we've got
as
some
we
players
say, as we say every week, you got guys with numbers.
Does anyone play defense? Or does everyone who touches the ball in high school state
and
have
that's like
2,500 yards and 30 touchdowns?
That's like what we talked about last week. I mean, when you want to go player of the year, there are 5-7 players who you could make a case for to be in the argument for player of the year.
Absolutely.
So.
Which we'll do here in the coming weeks. We'll certainly talk more about that. All right, we'll leave it there. There's Garrett Cullen with the high school update. G, thank you. Time for our first break. When we come back, we'll hear from Tony with a preview of tonight's West Virginia Bethune-Cookman basketball game. Hunters, got game? If you do, there's 3 ways to check it. By phone, call 844-WV-CHECK. Online, log on to wvhunt.com. In person, stop by a hunting or fishing license agent. You'll need to know your permanent DNR ID number, and when you check your game, you'll be given a 13-digit confirmation number you must write on your field tag. It's that simple. If you need an ID number, visit wvhunt.com. We're back after this on the Northside Automotive Statewide Sportsline.
All Medicare eligible individuals. It's time for open enrollment. Take advantage of the health plan's Medicare plans with benefits such as Silver Sneakers gym membership, an extensive list of doctors and hospitals. Contact us 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week at 1-877-847-7915 or visit healthplan.org/Medicare. This information is not a complete description of benefits. Contact the plan for more information. Limitations, copayments, and restrictions may apply. Benefits and/or copayments, coinsurance may change on January 1 of each year.
Hi, it's Tony Caridi. If you're in a business or organization that needs visual help, then let's get together and talk. For more than a decade now, those of us at Pikewood Creative have embraced the opportunity to help people just like you tell their story visually. Whether it's a video, commercial, animation, or motion graphics piece, we produce content that make others take notice. We help people increase their business and organizations better tell their story. If you need help, then contact us at pikewoodcreative.com.
When you drive impaired in West Virginia, you break the law and endanger the lives of others. Law enforcement across the state is committed to keeping impaired drivers off the road. If you drive impaired, be prepared to pay the price. There are consequences. It's simple, West Virginia. Drive sober or get pulled over.
The Northside Automotive Statewide Sportsline returns in 2 minutes. On Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
Almost there. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Gosh, cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
This fall, not all blockbusters are movies. The Jeep Black Friday Blockbuster Sales Event. It's the must-see event of the year. Well-qualified current lessees of competitive vehicles get a low-mileage lease on the 2015 Grand Cherokee Laredo for $279 a month.
When something is missing from the picture, it doesn't make sense. Without the right people, your work site is just a site. Your office is just a space. Let's Train West Virginia has grant funding for on-the-job training in today's in-demand careers. Workers learn while they earn, and companies can be reimbursed up to $10,000 per eligible new hire. So qualified employees and satisfied employers complete the picture. Learn more at letstrainwv.com.
Welcome back in. Northside Automotive, Statewide Sportsline, Monday edition. Brad Howe alongside Randy Goose Jerko. Another easy win back on Friday for West Virginia over Stetson. Now back at it again, 7 o'clock tonight against Bethune-Cookman at the Coliseum at 7 o'clock for a preview of that game. Let's go to the phones. Welcome in Tony Caridi. Tony, good evening.
Good evening to you guys.
All right, you just played, but they're back at it again. Mountaineers take on Bethune-Cookman tonight, coming up in a little less than an hour over at the Coliseum. Let's talk a little bit about Friday. What do you walk away from out of that game? I know it was an easy win again. Mountaineers moved to 3-0. Is there anything you can walk out of there with?
Well, I think anytime Hugs has an opportunity to, use it as a catalyst for future games, he does. And I think that, you never would have thought that they won by 41 points based on his comments coming out of the game. So I'm sure that he's been on him pretty good here over the last couple of days. And I think tonight is the opportunity to get one final tune-up in to correct what he wants corrected before they go out to Las Vegas. Because, in reality, these two games here, Fridays and then tonight's, are the first two games of this Las Vegas Invitational. And your level of competition increases as you go to Vegas. You should be able to handle Richmond on Thursday, and then you're going to get your real first test coming up on Friday against either San Diego State or California, whichever team wins that game once you get to Las Vegas. So I think he's just kind of, doing his deal, getting them ready, staying on them, not letting them get too confident despite the fact that they won easily the other night.
Bob Huggins praised Elijah Macon a couple different times to us on the show during the offseason. He was outstanding. Went 8 of 8 on Friday night. He looks physically different. Looks like he slimmed down, maybe added a little muscle. What do you see out of Macon so far?
I see what you're seeing there. His body has changed, and so you're seeing the evolution of a couple of things. Number one, remember, he didn't play at all the year that he was here sitting out. And, you're just not as sharp. And so I think that he's been able to transform his body. His physical conditioning in regard to his cardiovascular is much better. He's running the floor better. And, the reality of it was, he was one of the, he's a top 100 guy coming out of high school, and he's got abilities. And so I think that, you're starting to see him get a little bit more comfortable. The true test, obviously, is going to be once you get into, Power 5 games against, the Virginias of the world, Virginia Tech, and then into the league. That's going to be the telling tale. Right now, you're playing some teams that you're just physically more talented than, and as a result, you're going to post some big numbers. And so the true test will come here in 5 weeks or so. But the reality of it is, you've got to do it against at least the lower level of competition first before you can even think about doing it against the higher level of competition.
Along those lines, a guy that has done it before, Devin Williams, this is his junior year, so he's not as, green as Macon is, but these numbers that he's putting up, 20 points a game, 11 boards, he's shooting 60% from the field, 80% from the free throw line. Is this a guy that's poised for a breakout season, or is this kind of a little bit like what you were just saying with Elijah Macon, just, the level of people that we're playing against enables him to put up these numbers?
I think it's the beginning of what's going to be an extremely good season. And the reason I say that, Goose, is because he posted big numbers against Big 12 teams last year. and I do think that he's a better player than he was a year ago. And so I think that, Eric Martin, who the Mountaineer assistant coach who works with the big guys, Devin's been his personal project along with all those guys, Elijah. But I think that he's gotten into Devin the understanding of what he can do well, and he tries to continue to do that rather than trying to do the things that doesn't necessarily do well during a game situation. And so I do think he's poised to have a big year. And the reality of it is he has to have a big year in order for West Virginia to have a good season.
The guards so far are doing what we thought they would do from a scoring perspective. Carter and Miles combined, averaging about 30 points a game so far. Jayshawn Page had a career high on Friday. So not a surprise there. We knew those guys could score. We saw it in bursts last year. What about running the offense? What do you think that is so far? Is that still a work in progress, as I assume it will be most of the season for this team?
Yeah, I would agree. Work in progress. The thing that I see that I'd like to see improved upon is we're not shooting the ball well from behind the arc. We're not going to be able to get by with less than 30% shooting from three. So my deal is that I need to see Daxter Miles, I need to see Javon Carter, I need to see Tariq Phillips shoot the ball better. I think Jayshawn Page is shooting well from behind the arc. Tavon Myers at this moment, to me, looks like a junior college kid who's going to go through a bunch of ups and downs and learning in his first season, and is not a guy that you're going to be able to be consistently dependent upon. So the three guys have to be able to shoot the ball better from the perimeter. And that's one of those things, like I said at the start, what do you want to do better tonight? What are the things you want to do? If I'm Hugs, I'm saying, all right, guys, we're shooting under 30% from three-point range. Now, if we're going to have any chance and down the road here this season, we've got to become a team that people aren't going to pack it in on and say, go ahead and shoot it. So let's shoot the ball. So it's not going to happen in one night, but I do think that is an area of concern right now.
We talked about SL Mod with you last week, and since then they played 2 games. A lot of times when these freshmen come in and they're highly touted, a lot of people think that they can score the ball, but it's the overall game that needs refined. His overall game seems really good. He's got 11 assists. He's only got 5 turnovers, sees the court well. How surprised should West Virginia fans be in just his overall game and not just the ability to put the ball in the basket?
Well, good question. I'm probably, at this point, I think he's probably what we thought he was, and the good news is it's only going to get better. I was talking with one of the Mountaineer staff members before the season began, and they said, November and December for him are going to be, ups and downs, learning what they're going to do, what they're not going to do, what he can do and what he can't do. And they felt that he's just going to be one of these kids that's just going to ride a ladder all the way up all season long and just continue to step up and get better. So this is kind of what I thought. And I'm looking forward to just continue to watch him grow. I think that you guys know this, when you have a young talent who's really skilled and really good, it's fun to watch them mature in front of your eyes. And the nice thing about it is you're playing so many games so quickly, right? You played Friday, you're going to play Monday, you're going to play Thursday, you're going to play Friday. You're going to get 4 games in here in the next 7 days, in the span of 7 days. And so I just think that the growth happens really quickly, and that's what's fun to watch.
Isn't that the beauty of basketball versus college football? We talk about really everything, Tony, right? The more reps you get, the better you're going to be at it, and that's what you get with basketball. These games just keep coming right at you.
Yeah, I think that baseball probably allows you to get better the quickest because you just play so often, and then basketball is probably there. But football, that's why it takes sometimes kids years and 2 years, because in order to get on the field, to get real quality reps, you have to find a way to get out there. And then, there's only 12 games in the stinking season. I mean, it just goes by so fast. That's why it takes so long to develop those guys.
Last thing, and we'll get you out of here. Let's talk football for just a second. I know not a ton coming out of that Kansas game. Basically, what I took away from that, West Virginia ran the ball well again and dominated a clearly inferior opponent as we thought it would. So anything really other than that you walk away from Lawrence with?
Just the mental attitude to go out there and do it. It's one thing to say, hey, we've got to go bring our own energy. Hey, it's going to be cold. Hey, it's going to be windy. You hear that a lot of times, and then you go out there and you lay a dud. But this particular team went out there and it did everything it said it was going to do. It was undaunted by the fumble that it had on its first possession, and it was fortuitous in getting the ball back after Parmalee fumbled there on that pass completion. And that, to me, kind of just set the whole thing in motion. You throw in the pick 6, and it was game, set, and match because West Virginia had won the emotional side of the deal.
I agree with you. All right, we'll leave it there. Have a good call tonight, and we'll talk to you later in the week from Vegas.
Okay, guys, thank you.
All right, there he is, Tony Caridi checking in with us from the Coliseum. Tip-off here coming up in just under about, 40 minutes from now, 30 minutes from now, and that game will be underway. So time for a break for us. Stay with us as the Northside Automotive Statewide Sportsline continues.
Firing and efficient with up to 31 miles per gallon highway. Four Wheeler Magazine is calling the Jeep Cherokee the 2015 4x4 of the year. And Grand Cherokee is recognized as the most luxurious SUV in its class. Hurry in for a great deal during the Jeep Black Friday Blockbuster sales event, going on now through November 30th.
Purchase and get 0% APR financing for 75 months or $4,000 total cash allowance on the 2015 Jeep Cherokee Limited. Go to Jeep.com to find your local Jeep dealer and hurry to the Jeep Black Friday Blockbuster sales event. EPA estimate front-wheel drive with 1.4-liter multi-air turbo engine and 6-speed manual transmission. Ward segmentation Summit model 0% APR financing for 75 months equals $1,333 per month per $1,000 financed for well-qualified buyers through Chrysler Capital regardless of down payment. Residency restrictions apply. Take retail delivery by 11/30/15. Jeep is a registered trademark of FCA US LLC.
West Virginia has balanced its budget on the back of the coal industry ever since we became a state 150 years ago. Historically, the coal industry and coal-fired electric utilities have accounted for over 60% of all business taxes, while high-energy wages contribute a disproportionate share of income taxes, and coal severance dollars sustain important programs in all counties. All told, the industry infuses over $26 billion to our state's economy. Coal alone has paid down nearly $1 billion of the state's workers' compensation debt. Consequently, all state businesses have experienced major reductions in workers' comp benefits. The coal industry has always supported our people and our economy, but it's under attack from the Obama administration and the EPA. It's fighting to survive. Coal taxes in West Virginia are higher than our surrounding states. We're losing coal markets to our neighbors. Let's get our mines and coal miners working again. Support a reduced tax rate for mining, paid for by West Virginia Coal Association.
The Northside Automotive Statewide Sportsline returns in 2 minutes. On Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
This fall, not all blockbusters are movies. The Jeep Black Friday Blockbuster Sales Event. It's the must-see event of the year. Well-qualified current lessees of competitive vehicles get a low-mileage lease on the 2015 Grand Cherokee Laredo for $279 a month.
When something is missing from the picture, it doesn't make sense. Without the right people, your work site is just a site. Your office is just a space. Let's Train West Virginia has grant funding for on-the-job training in today's in-demand careers. Workers learn while they earn, and companies can be reimbursed up to $10,000 per eligible new hire. So qualified employees and satisfied employers complete the picture. Learn more at letstrainwv.com.
There. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Gosh, cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
Welcome back in, Northside Automotive, Statewide Sportsline. Brad Howe, Randy Jerko, along with you tonight, Monday evening. A reminder, you can watch our show each night by going to our website, wvmetronews.com. And if you go there now, you can get a look at our beards. Beards are coming in nicely with only about a week to go. As you probably know, there are a bunch of us here at West Virginia Radio growing our beards out this month to raise awareness and, most importantly, money for the Alzheimer's Association. 40,000 West Virginians suffer from this horrific disease, and that number is expected to double in the next couple of decades. Here's how you can help. It's real simple. Go to the website, noshavewv.com. That's noshavewv.com, and click on the Make a Donation button. And don't think any amount is too small. Whatever you could spare helps. $5, $10, whatever it is, would be greatly appreciated. We have about a week left to donate, so we encourage you, if you can help, go to noshavewv.com and click on the Make a Donation button. And remember to check us out. You're coming in there. You're nice and red.
It is. It's very
nice and
very
red.
ginger.
I'm very white.
It is.
Coming in nicely, though. I'm over the itching stage.
Are you?
Yeah. You?
Yeah, I think so. Thanks to your tip.
Yeah. Got to lotion
Anyone
up.
out there, man, if you haven't grown a beard before and you're thinking, man, and these guys look dashing in those beards, I'm going to try to do that. Get some hand lotion.
Which I'm sure is what everybody's thinking. All right, let's talk. There's not a ton, to be honest. There's not a ton of reflection, I don't think, to
No.
do on that Kansas
Few
game.
words.
I think it's this, and I think we said that with Tony here a little bit earlier. From my take, at least, West Virginia did what it needed to do. This was a bad Kansas team. All the stats, all the losing, you know about it. West Virginia needed to go in and not only win, but dominate, right, in order to walk out of there where you feel good, keep this momentum going. And they did that, ran for 400 yards. 3 guys go over 100. I mean, again, I can go on and on about the stats, but at the end of the day, that was just a dominating performance over a really struggling football team. Did you take anything other than that out of there?
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, Kansas is terrible. West Virginia went in. They played bad teams before, and you let them hang around. I mean, I still have no idea how TCU, I don't care if Boykin and Doxson were hurt. Was the rest of the team sick? That game still baffles me. But yeah, that Kansas was bad. You mentioned it. West Virginia went in. You had the turnover early, and it's like, oh no, come on. And then Kansas immediately gives you the ball back. You hand off 4 times. You walk in the end zone, and then a pick 6, and that game was over. Right? 4 minutes in, it was over.
Literally 4 minutes in, it was an interesting 4 minutes though, because I think that's right. I mean, you saw that first possession for West Virginia, and they just looked
2 handoffs to a fullback,
disjointed, a fumble. Yeah, it did not look good. Kansas completes a pass, and you're like, oh, geez. But literally, then 2 minutes later, that thing's over, and you're saying it's 14-0. This thing's done. West Virginia rolls. So I give them credit. They, Tony said that exactly right. We've seen West Virginia teams in the past, and we've seen teams all over the country show up in those exact situations and just slog through the game. West Virginia did what it had to do to take care of business. Next opponent. And again, I think we have to say this because as tough as the October schedule was, this last 5 games is turning out with 2 to go exactly as we thought, or at least I'll say this, as I thought. This is 5 teams that West Virginia should go in and handle. So far, it has handled 3 of them and is in real position to take the last 2 as well, because you're getting an Iowa State team that when you look at just stats, 8th in the league in scoring offense, 7th in the league in rushing offense, 8th in the league in scoring defense, 7th in the league in rushing defense. So again, this is a team that you would expect is at near the bottom of the league, and it's a team that will be playing this game not with an interim coach. Paul Rhodes has stayed on, and you asked yesterday. You asked why you leave Paul Rhodes on in that situation. I'll give you my answer. You ready for my answer?
Okay, yeah, I did, because I when I first saw it, I thought it was odd, and I think I even put on Twitter as it read to me when I first saw it. It's like divorcing your wife, but then still going to her parents' house for Thanksgiving dinner.
So here's my take. I don't know that I'm right, but I have a feeling that I'm around it if I'm not right on. And I know Jamie Pollard a good bit. We worked together at the University of Maryland in the athletic department before he then I left and came here to West Virginia. He left, went on to Wisconsin, and ran that department while Barry Alvarez was still the football coach but had the AD title, and then he, of course, left for Iowa State. He's a good guy, and he's a compassionate, caring guy. And my sense of this is that there's not animosity between Rhodes and Pollard, that this has come to this. Rhodes is well-liked, well-thought of, has been a classy guy throughout his time. He's an Iowa native. He's from not too far from Ames, and he's an Iowa guy, an Iowa State guy. So I think what this is, if I can make kind of a weird analogy, it's almost like it's a retirement rather than a firing. And you know how in the retirement you get the one last going away party, so to speak?
Sure.
I'm almost viewing this as that it's Pollard and Rhodes' way. Pollard saying, I mean, what's gained by not having him coach? And it gives Rhodes a chance. You saw him in an emotional press conference today. He's an emotional guy. He got up and did a really nice job at his press conference, so he had that opportunity. He has one more week with his guys, another week of practice, a Thanksgiving week to spend with his team, and one more chance to go out and let his guys play for him. So in my take, it's that. It's an opportunity. We're firing you, yes, but thank you for what you did. Here's one last opportunity if you want it. Now, he had the opportunity to walk away if he wanted.
Sure.
But in my mind, this is kind of one last opportunity, one last hurrah.
Is it fair to say that this may be an indictment on the way that the media is now? That this happened more often than we think years ago, and just like the coach and the staff knew, or just the team knew, and it wouldn't get out there. Whereas now, if they would have just told him, because my first thought was, why not wait a week? It's 7 days. You play the last game and then announce it the day after, as opposed to, the pomp and circumstance of, a week leading up to this last game. But is that possible that they wanted to see that Gary Pinkel hinted at the fact that he wanted to keep that under wraps, but he got wind that it was coming out, so they had to announce that, before he wanted to?
Yeah, because that certainly happens now more than it used to. So, yes, I think maybe some of that factors in. But at the end of the day, I just took that as that exact reason. Rather than you play out this week with uncertainty and you've got to ask all week and he's got to deflect questions and you can feel it and he probably knows but nobody really knows and it's an awkward week. Now they're in a weird way, there's some closure for that whole group of guys, Rhodes included, and now they can just this week spend some time with each other. And if you've seen some of the Iowa State players' tweets, I mean, they love this guy. Yeah. So
they like playing for him. So
again,
they almost embraced the elephant in the room as opposed to ignoring it.
Yeah, and at the same time, and this is a difficult situation, I get it. At the same time, I understand it from Jamie Pollard's perspective. They've got a brand new renovation down there. They've spent millions of dollars. That's about as patient as a fan base as you're going to find across the country.
A good fan base.
At the same time, 8 wins in 3 years. Yeah. And again, that's a tough gig and it's a really hard job. But at the very least, the reason you move on, and they're going to be in a challenging market to try and find a new coach, at the very least now they can sell some hope for a couple years. They may not be any better off, and it'll be tougher to find a better guy than Paul Rhodes, but at least they're going to try and sell hope for a couple years. It's a tough spot. Very tough spot. That loss on Saturday, man, was a tough one. Real quick, I'm not going to dwell on this for them, but real quick, here's what it is. They were up with a minute and a half to go. They were up a touchdown.
And I left the game.
Kansas State had one timeout left, okay? So they could have, here's the debate you have. Do you just kneel the ball, make them call their timeout, you kneel it a couple times, and you may still have to punt it, okay?
Sure.
Or the thought was, what they thought, we're just going to run the ball a couple times here, or at least once. We've got a really good running back in Mike Warren. Well, guess what? He fumbles. He fumbled the ball. Second time. You're right. Coach Nealon has joined us. Coach Nealon's in the studio. So, yeah, that's Warren's second fumble in the fourth quarter.
Jeez.
So, they score. Let me back up. Kansas State gets the ball and they move down. For some reason, the clock stopped. Iowa State gets some weird officiating things happen to them, but it didn't matter. Clock stopped after second down. 10 seconds ran off, or should have run off when it didn't. They score the touchdown on the third down. Okay?
Yep.
Lanning, so now it's tied.
Right.
Okay, you're tied. So now you have a choice whether to try and win it and go kick a field goal or play for overtime.
Right.
Okay? They try and first play, Lanning drops back to pass with 20 seconds left. I'm sorry, he runs on first down, picks up 4, 2nd and 6. Clock's still moving. Drops back to pass, 20 seconds to go. Fumbles the football.
You're kidding me.
Fumbles the football. K-State gets it back, kicks a 42-yard game-winning field goal. I didn't do a good job of explaining that, but 2 fumbles in the span of 40 seconds.
So you're winning by 7 points with the ball. The other team has one timeout with under 1 minute left, and you lose in regulation.
That sideline for Iowa State was celebrating when they got that last stop. They had stopped Kansas State, Coach, on 2 4th downs. Yep. It looked like they had the win. It's just it was a crushing way to lose. Crushing way to lose. All right, let's get to a break. When we come back, we'll get Coach Neal in the studio. Let's get to Coach's Take. So we'll take a break. When we come back, Don Nealon joins us. Stay with us.
This Saturday, the West Virginia Mountaineers return home for a Big 12 matchup with the Iowa State Cyclones. Join Metro News for the best, most listened to game day coverage. The pregame fun starts at 9 a.m. with the Jeep Gold and Blue Countdown, followed by the Sports Brunch. Game line kicks off at high noon. Then postgame analysis begins at 3 with the Gold and Blue wrap-up, brought to you by the West Virginia Oil and Natural Gas Association. Don't miss game day coverage at its best, beginning Saturday morning at 9, right here on Metro News.
Good paying jobs with great benefits are available now. As a correctional officer with the West Virginia Division of Corrections, you'll also have educational opportunities for a degree in criminal justice at reduced prices. High school diploma or GED and drug screening required. Take advantage of an accelerated hiring and training process that other state agencies don't offer. National Guard members get partial credit in the Training Academy. Visit WVDOC.com.
The Northside Automotive Statewide Sportsline returns in 2 minutes. On Metro News. For 30 years, the voice of West Virginia.
When something is missing from the picture, it doesn't make sense. Without the right people, your work site is just a site. Your office is just a space. Let's Train West Virginia has grant funding for on-the-job training in today's in-demand careers. Workers learn while they earn, and companies can be reimbursed up to $10,000 per eligible new hire. So qualified employees and satisfied employers complete the picture. Learn more at letstrainwv.com.
There. Just 5 more minutes. Almost home.
Statistics show that 80% of auto fatalities occur close to home on rural roads.
Gosh, cops.
That's why law enforcement is stepping up rural patrols and cracking down on impaired driving. If you are over the limit, you are under arrest because drinking and driving don't mix. Remember, over the limit, under arrest. This message brought to you by the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
This fall, not all blockbusters are movies. The Jeep Black Friday Blockbuster Sales Event. It's the must-see event of the year. Well-qualified current lessees of competitive vehicles get a low-mileage lease on the 2015 Grand Cherokee Laredo for $279 a month.
Final segment of the show, Northside Automotive, Statewide Sportsline. Brad Howe, Randy Goose, Jerko along with you. And we remind you, the American Mountain Theater debuts their Christmas Spectacular show this upcoming weekend in Elkins. The show features comedy, musical favorites, and family fun. The show runs through December and is a great holiday getaway. For more holiday shows and family fun, visit go2wv.com or call 800-225-5982. Now it's time for our favorite 10 minutes of the week. The Hall of Famer, Coach Don Nealon, is here. Coach, good evening. Welcome.
Welcome back, big guy.
All right,
from Kansas.
Let's start here. Here's what we got first. Let's and we're not gonna dissect that Kansas game a whole lot there. Just give us your initial takes. What'd you see out of there?
Well, Kansas is not a very good football team, and Brad, anytime you've lost as many games as they have, and the week before they played pretty hard, they spilled their guts and still lost. And then we get ahead early, the game's over. And when you can run the football, let's face it, gang, that's the secret.
Yeah.
Well, when you can run, you can do anything.
Yeah.
I guarantee you. I talked to Dana today. He said, "Hey, Coach, we ran the football." I says, "You're getting smart, young man. You're getting smart." But, when you got those two ponies we got back there, feed them a little bit.
Yeah. And they are.
Oh,
I mean, West Virginia's up to now number 2 in the conference in rushing, about 244 yards a game. So that's what you're seeing. This has turned into almost past a run-heavy team, and it's a run first, second, and third team.
Yep, that's there's nothing wrong with that either, because that's going to make Skyler pretty darn good. He's going to hit the long one now. He's going to be pretty good now, guaranteed.
And he's helping you in the run game too. I mean, it fits his skills. He went over 100 yards on Saturday, so that's fitting into his game right now.
Yeah. Of course, he's not going to run for 100 yards against a team that knows how to play defense. I'm going to tell you that.
I know, but you're not playing any of those. I mean, your last two games, Iowa State's a little bit better, and Kansas State's maybe a tad better. But these are the 5 worst defenses in the country that in the league that West Virginia has played over these last 5. So that also works in your favor.
Oh, no question. Well, like we said, Brad, 3 weeks ago, we're going to win out. We're going to win out. We're going to finish 8-4.
Yeah.
And go to a. I mean, there's so many bowls. I don't even know what bowls. But we lost to 4 pretty good football teams.
Yeah.
What it amounts to. And the reason the fans complained is because they were all bunched together. If we would have spaced those out, who knows? We may have won 1 or 2 of them.
We sat in here with you last week, and we talked up Oklahoma, and I think rightfully so. They held on, after Baker Mayfield went out. They were in total control of that game with him playing. Have you changed it all on Oklahoma, or do you still think they're one of those teams that should be in that Final Four? If they win Bedlam Saturday, of course.
Well, first of all, they got to beat Oklahoma State. Yeah. If Oklahoma State beats them, then nobody in our league's going to get in for sure.
I think I'm with you.
But if Oklahoma beats them, then we got to hope Stanford beats Notre Dame. Now, Notre Dame's dismal showing this past week against a poor BC team probably helped us a little bit, the Big 12, but Notre Dame's got that fantastic name.
They do, but I like if there's a team going up against them, Oklahoma's got a pretty fair brand as well. Exactly. And I'm on the side of, and you know how this works, and they say politics doesn't come into play, and I say BS, because that committee has said conference championships matter. And a one-loss brand like Oklahoma with good league wins and a win at Tennessee, which should win 8, as a conference champion, I think that resume has to surpass Notre Dame, or I think you're going to have a revolt from the people that control college athletics. I think.
Yeah, well,
that's at least my prediction.
I think you're right. I'm not going to disagree with that. And I will say this: I was surprised TCU played them as well as they did.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
And I don't know where all these guys are getting these quarterbacks.
That's what Randy said.
Baylor's got 3.
Hey, where are they coming from?
I am with you, Coach. TCU was down to their 3rd, right?
Yeah.
Put their 3rd guy in. It played well.
Almost won the game.
And Baylor, the kid they had moved to receiver, comes in, and Randy said it in the break, threw 2 of the best balls we've seen all year.
Tom Brady couldn't have thrown better passes than those 2.
Unbelievable. So one thing for sure, we know going into next year, there's going to be some good football teams in our league.
That's the truth. All right, let's fast forward and look at Iowa State, because the discussion around the Cyclones, I think, changes based on what we were talking about right when you walked in. This will be a different team emotionally than it would be if it was coming in here off that tough loss and having their coach fired. I think you're going to get a team, at least early, that emotionally is there for Paul Rhodes. Agree?
No question. The key to our game is we have got to jump on them early. If we don't jump on this team early, I'm telling you, they'll claw and scratch for that guy. But if we can get up by 14 points, 17 points, I think they'll bust. But I could be wrong, because I know Paul Rhodes. I don't know him well, but I know their players really like him.
Yeah.
And I know they're going to scratch for the guy. Like I say, I watched them play 2 or 3 times, and they were a pretty good football team. But how in the devil they find a way? The way they lost this last game, I'm sitting in my chair going, you got to be kidding me.
Right.
Crazy.
Right.
And that, I don't know the tailback's name.
Warren. The Iowa State tailback, Warren.
Yeah. He had played a whale of a game.
And has had a fantastic year.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
They do have some guys, and they're missing their coach. Another program, because I want to ask you about this, because you would know this better than anyone. There's a lot of chatter today about LSU getting rid of Les Miles. It's a guy with a national championship on his resume, played for another one, has an incredible amount of success, has won 73% of his games at LSU, but they're talking about buying him out and giving him $15 million to go away. What do you make of this landscape of college football now?
Well, that's crazy. Those LSU people better be careful what they wish for. I'm going to tell you that. because Les Miles is a pretty daggone good football coach. When I coached at Michigan, Les was a graduate assistant for us, and I know Les very, very well. And, people, I don't get it. Do they think they're going to win the national championship every year? And every program, I don't care how good a program it is, it's going to have a valley now and then. Now, a great program won't have a valley very long, but they're going to go downhill a little bit. Notre Dame's gone downhill. Hey, I had great success, but I had a couple valleys. I never had 2 losing seasons in a row, but we'd have a losing season and scratch out the valley. But everybody's, there's injuries. There's a million things that can happen to a football team. And, LSU right now is projected to have the number 1 recruiting class in America.
They are. They're sitting at number 1.
So this guy does something right.
Do you think it's to the point where I've had a theory here for a few years that it is really hard anymore? I just don't think you'll see anybody do what you did, where you can get 20 years in. I think that's done. I think you're hard-pressed when you start to get to that 10 or 11, and you've had success, and Miles has had a ton of it. I think you just get to the point you can't feed the beast anymore, and you almost – he's a tremendous coach, and if he wants to keep coaching, I think he's 62 or 63. If he wants to keep coaching, they'll line up to hire him. But don't you think you sometimes get to a point where you do have to go in a different direction because the attention and the criticism is so great that you almost have to reset it?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about it. And I heard that what's that guy's name? Feinstein or
Feinbaum.
Paul Feinbaum.
Paul Feinbaum.
He follows that conference very, very strongly, and he says it's been a gradual decline there at LSU since 2012.
Right.
And he said the pressure's been building and building, and I didn't know this, but he kind of made reference to the fact that Les wasn't very personable. I find that hard to believe.
Yeah.
Because I've known the guy since high school, and I've never known that to be true. But anyhow, I would hate to see Les lose that job. Now, if he wants to give it up, fine. But I'd sure hate for somebody to call him in the office and say, hey, you're done. But $15 million?
Oh, to not go to work?
I can't even visualize that stuff. That's
with
crazy.
you. Yeah, it's crazy money, and that's one of the criticisms of this as a business now, that you're to the point that you're going to give $15 million to a guy to not come to work. It's crazy. Now, he's not been fired yet, and there was a press conference today. A lot of people thought that was going to be it. It wasn't, so there's no word yet, but it's certainly the noise is there. So, all right, Coach, good stuff. We appreciate you joining us as always, and that's going to do it for tonight. If you missed any part of the show, remember you can catch the podcast on iTunes or visit our website, wvmetronews.com, and download tonight's show. A reminder, the Don Neal and Bob Pruitt Show comes up next on many of these same stations. Dave Weekley and both coaches will be with you starting right after us here at 7:06. Sportsline is back tomorrow at 6:06. For Garrett and Goose and Coach Neal, and I'm Brad Howe. Thanks for listening. We're out.